On what grounds can an MLA be disqualified? Number one, if an MLA gives up membership of the party voluntarily or joins another party, then he or she can be disqualified. Similarly, if they choose to vote or abstain from voting also in contradiction to the party stand and in contradiction to the whip issued by the party, they can face disqualification. Now, the exception to this rule is that if two-thirds of the party decides to switch, like in the case of Eknath Shinde, they could save themselves from disqualification. That's why we kept saying that Eknath Shinde needed the number of 37. He's reached it. So he's effectively got two-thirds of the party's strength in the House with him, in which case he saves himself from disqualification, which is why it's interesting to see what the Deputy Speaker will do next. So the exception is two-thirds of the party's strength choosing to switch, choosing to rebel. And that's happened in the case of Eknath Shinde, which is why, Ashutosh, there are questions about why this step is being taken by the Deputy Speaker. Is it that he wants Eknath Shinde to show off his strength, to prove that he actually has two-thirds of the party's strength?
Well, in a legislative process, finally the numbers will be shown only on the floor of the House. Now, as far as 10 schedules, the last, the para is concerned, it has multiple, interpretation. The first, it says the two-third majority split and declare them, one of them as a leader of the House. But there is another interpretation which also says that after two-third majority, two-third number from the party, if you merge with the another party, so clearly until it is there is legal and judicial intervention and the final words from the judiciary, what it seems that end of the day it is likely to end up going to the High Court and the Supreme Court. But for now it is, and remember, this disqualification is not about the number that Eknath Shinde has at the moment. This is about the letter of resolution sent by Eknath Shinde when he was just short of the majority, and that's exactly been made the ground that there was a meeting called and they defied the whip. They did not appear for the meeting. Hence, this is for anti-party activity and hence the disqualification process. So this is about the letter of resolution then sent by Eknath Shinde faction when they were short of the majority. Taking that ground, the Deputy Speaker and the Shiv Sena has initiated this disqualification. At present, and that's exactly, if you remember, yesterday and day before yesterday, a fresh letter was sent by Shinde Group to the Speaker, where they also expressed the no confidence against the Deputy Speaker. So what you have the number, remember, the legislative process or the legal process, it goes on the paper and black and white word. So at the moment when you issued a resolution and sent to the Deputy Speaker for certain declaration, if you are short of a single number, that gives a strong ground to the Deputy Speaker and the legislative process to take appropriate action. So that seems to be one weak point of the Eknath Shinde that made at the moment. What happens is at the moment he has the number, and that perhaps acknowledged by the Mahavikas. Exactly, then that's because Mahavikas Aghadi Alliance did acknowledge that they are short of the number, but it is now ladai of the fight of the cadre, the Shiv Sena, the organization. That's why we are saying outside this optics from the Shiv Sena, because one side they have to fight for the number on the floor of the House, and other side. And what is more important, and the most important in this legal and legislative process is that if you compare this to what had happened in Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh, the MLAs were ready to even resign and then recontest. Here the question goes to the Eknath Shinde faction, that are they ready to resign just in case if there is a disqualification? Are they ready to lose their membership? Because what happens next in High Court or the Supreme Court, no one knows. But for now, if this process is initiated, and what we are anticipated that they are disqualified, then the number in the House goes in the favor of the Mahavikas Aghadi. That's what I said, that there is a new strategy drawn in last 48 hours, and that's why exactly giving a sort of confidence. And at the same time, of course, what we heard that yesterday Eknath Shinde was also seeking legal opinion here. Deputy Speaker called the Advocate General and several other legal counsel. Those all legal references are being drawn, being taken for the next course of the action. But the question also now goes on the Shinde faction, that are they ready to be disqualified and then think the future political course action? Because one side the challenges for the MVA, the other side there are legal challenges for the Eknath Shinde faction as well.
Right. Ashutosh, stay with me. Paulami Saha is reporting from Guwahati on exactly what Shinde's next move is going to be. With this Deputy Speaker considering this disqualification petition filed by Uddhav Thackeray, Paulami, is there a likelihood that Eknath Shinde will now expedite his plans, ensure that he parades all of the MLAs that he has with him in Mumbai? Because it comes down to that. If the Deputy Speaker is given concrete proof that Eknath Shinde has two-thirds of the party's strength with him, then this entire talk of disqualification essentially will be set aside.
Akshita, first of all, I'd just like to bring out 2 points that just spoke to some of the rebel MLAs inside Radisson Blu Hotel. 2 points that we can in fact put out right now for our viewers. One is that the Eknath Shinde camp will be meeting inside Radisson Blu Hotel at 2 p.m. today. There'll be a meeting of the entire set of MLAs inside, which is the 47 MLAs inside, including the 38 MLAs of the Shiv Sena at 2 p.m. this afternoon to strategize their further course of action. Now, I also asked them about the question that there is a possibility that the Deputy Speaker could summon you to appear before him in person at the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly to answer on the notices which have been issued against them by, of course, the Shiv Sena party in Mumbai, the 16 rebel MLAs. And what I was told by sources within that camp is that we're waiting to see what the Deputy Speaker does. There is a possibility we could go as well, but all of that will only be decided when we hear from the Deputy Speaker and what sort of a notice or a summons is issued to us, the deadline of it, the timeline given, etc. So on the basis of that, we are going to take a decision. We're not discounting the possibility that we might indeed fly down to Mumbai.
Okay, so what you're telling us is also important here, Paulami. There's going to be a meeting that happens at 2 p.m. So this afternoon, perhaps after that meeting, we'll get clarity on exactly what the next step of Shinde will be. But, you know, in your communication with the Shinde camp, Paulami, are they considering the Deputy Speaker taking note of the disqualification petition as a setback?
Well, no, they were in fact prepared for the same, Akshita,
Okay.
because they did realize, see, this is a process that they had, of course, thought of in terms of the steps ahead as to what is exactly going to happen when they rebel in this form. Obviously, there would be an attempt made to disqualify them. First, there would be, of course, the attempt made to placate them, break the ranks, bring them back. There could be the possibility that a disqualification notice would be moved against some of them who were indeed considered eventually by the Shiv Sena camp in Mumbai as those who will not return, who have rebelled in such a way that there is a point of no return which is reached, which is possibly the case with these 16 rebel MLAs who have been identified by the Shiv Sena camp in Mumbai in order for them to proceed against them with these disqualification notices. So they're not very surprised with the steps that are being taken, unless there is some surprise legal step which is taken by the Uddhav Thackeray camp. But at the moment, of course, they anticipated this.
Okay.
They did anticipate that the Deputy Speaker could possibly take these certain measures, because of which they had already moved on the 21st of June a no confidence motion against the Deputy Speaker, seeking his removal after he in fact accepted the petition of the Uddhav Thackeray faction to remove Eknath Shinde as leader of the legislature party and appoint Ajay Chaudhary in his place.